Good evening, I'm John Carter and welcome to Poland Daily Business. Statistics from Eurostat show that Poland's retail industry is booming. Retail sales figures for November highlight a 4.7% annual increase, which is more than twice the rate of the average EU country. The positive numbers come in spite of the fact that shops are closed on most Sundays. However, internet shopping and the mail order sector were up 8% and appear to have boosted the market. The largest sales growth was in Slovenia at 10.7%, whilst France saw the worst results with just a 1% rise. It seems Poles are happiest holidaying in their own country. The southern mountain tourist resort Zakopane remains the country's most popular holiday destination. It's difficult to pin down just one particular reason, but it seems Poles are unsurprisingly most at ease holidaying in a safe and homogeneous environment, with the reduced costs of a domestic resort. Also, many Poles continue to prefer to travel by car to their holiday destination. In mid-December, the American Congress agreed to sell the strategic HIMARS surface-to-surface rocket system to Poland. The deal was initially estimated to cost Warsaw $655 million, and it includes 20 rocket launchers. This is going to be second only to the Patriot missile system as the largest purchase of the Polish army in recent times. The rocket's range is estimated at 300 kilometres. And that's all we got time for here at Poland Daily Business. I'm John Carter. Now it's over to Alexander Wierzierski.
Poland Daily Business Edition. Tonight our guest is Marcin Roszkowski of Jagiellonian Institute and businessalert.pl portal. Sir, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Well, we'll talk tonight about radioactive issue of Polish nuclear energy.
Actually, the decision about the
right, because there is none, so there is only radiation around, and the attempts to invest in this sector are like at least 40 years old. We started the nuclear plant in the north of the country in 1980s. That was exactly the same design as in Chernobyl, but or maybe anyway, Russian.
So actually, that was good news that we have not completed the project.
Right. Then, previous government had a special manager paid by 100,000 Polish zlotys a month to produce the design. They didn't even choose the place where the potential nuclear plant may be located. And right now we are still at the debate. Do we want one? Do we don't want one? How much money it costs? So still mulling in place.
So the bad news is that we have already spent over $1 billion in the last couple of years designing, planning, preparing the site of the plant. But actually, what is in the strategy of the government? There has been a draft strategy presented during last month. What is in the strategy is also the atomic energy is also already and also placed in the strategy. The consultations will end 15th of January, but the government is very happy to have atomic energy within Polish energy mix. Actually, what is a problem is that the typical old design of nuclear power plants has these two problems. First of all, you cannot foresee the capex of this investment and also the timeline of the construction. So these benchmarks are not met, and actually it's very hard to plan how this or these plants could be also financed and built. What is the hope for the energy mix are probably the modular reactors. The process of commercialization of these plants is on its way. It will take a couple of years, but generally we need the atomic energy in mid of 30s. So generally that's the dilemma of the project.
15 years to go, maybe 17 years to go. Not that much time.
No, so for building the old design, the time is already up because we need to have been starting the construction like 10 years ago, but it has not happened. So yeah, the atomic energy in Poland is still on its way. The plants are there, but generally there's a gap in the in energy production. There will be a gap in the mid of 30s because the lignite plants will be running out of lignite. So there will be a demand for energy, and something needs to fill the gap. The offshore wind is not everything that can help.
Yeah, on solar in Poland or photovoltaics, you also cannot count, especially in winter. Half of the year is low saturation of the sunrise in this country.
Generally, there is no good answer for the energy sector anywhere. There's nobody goes only with solar, or only with nuclear, or only with wind, or only with coal. Kind of a mix of these technologies is required. Also fueled by natural gas as a balancing power, but generally, what needs to be done, a strategy that is doable.
Yes, that atomic plant is generally very expensive venue. We know that Chinese are doing it in average 4 to 5 years from start to end of this investment. The Koreans are doing that in 8 to 10, but that's a different sort of approach. And actually, the Korean companies are delivering the atomic plants in budget and in time, which is quite an achievement in the world. You mentioned this modular reactors, but the price of nuclear power out of the small modular reactors will be more expensive than from the big plants.
What is actually important when we talk about nuclear is that, first of all, it's zero emission, so it fits perfectly in the energy and climate policies of the European Union. But generally, the modular, all the normal traditional power plants are very expensive when you compare the prices of the energy produced by them. When we have the CO2 emissions as such a high price, high level, the nuclear energy is very expensive, despite how we choose the technology.
But on the other side is that we know it will be delivered over 30 years at a constant rate.
The problem is the technologies in the energy sector are changing very rapidly, and when we actually building a nuclear power plant is an investment for 50 or 60 years. So setting a large portion of the energy mix and freezing it with one technology on fixed prices for 50 years is actually pretty dangerous, because we are not flexible when adjusting. Now we know how we can, put renewables at a certain price. The lifetime is 20 years. We know how gas plants work. We know how coal plants work. But generally, now building something that will last for 50 or 60 years in one technology is quite a hazard.
So maybe it makes sense to connect to something that already exists. The late Jan Kulczyk, the businessman that died in 2014, was involved in a project linking the Ukrainian nuclear power plant to Polish system. And is it a time to return to this idea?
I don't know if it's convenient for Poland to have the energy sources outside of our borders.
If it will be cheaper than ours?
But temporarily, it will be cheaper. All our neighbors have the energy costs lower than Poland. So opening the borders for importing energy is one of the actually policies that are happening. We have imported in 2016 3 terawatts of energy, last year 6, and this year will be probably around 12. So it's a huge increase in the imports.
But it depends how you look at it. If you look at it from the point of view of the energy producers in Poland, well, the opening the borders may not be great. If you look from the point of view of our exporters that are selling products abroad and bringing cash to our economy.
I'm looking just from the perspective of the clients, of actually the whole economy and the households, because these are the main recipients of the price.
The lower prices?
The lower price, the better. Actually, the 4 utilities are in serious trouble because of the policies, internal and external, and taking their under consideration is also important. But generally, at the end, the consumers will react to the prices given, and the prices are rising. So all the impulses to lower them are welcome.
Okay, so we'll see.
Sad to say, but that's the situation we are in.
Will the consumers finally go to their own energy production?
It is very attractive, and they will. If you have, I don't know, you're producing furniture outside of big cities, and you have some plots behind you, on the other side of your fence, you can install PV, you can install onshore wind, and try to go off grid.
Block some river, make a turbine,
yes.
Check how much it delivers.
Yeah, but generally that's the impulse to do that is is on the table, and it will be growing because of the rising prices of the CO2,
which are rising sort of artificial way, stimulated by ETS or European system.
That's the decision made in 2007 and 8 and 6, and so we are just consuming this decision now.
Well, we'll see then. Thank you very much. Marcin Roszkowski of Jagiellonian Institute and businessalert.pl portal was our guest, and that was it for tonight's Poland Daily Business.
Welcome to Poland Daily Weather. Let's see the forecast for tonight. A quite overcast night as large parts of the country, and we'll see rain mixed in with some snow in Wrocław, Koszalin and Gdańsk. A maximum 1 degree in Szczecin and Koszalin and a minimum -10 degrees in Kraków and Białystok. Now over to tomorrow. It will be a mixed bag with rain across the country, but also moments when the sun will peek through the clouds. The temperature will range from -4 degrees in Wrocław to 5 in the west. Let's see the forecast for the following 3 days. Another rainy day all over Poland. A maximum 1 degree in the west and central Poland. More rain is expected on Thursday, but with slightly cooler temperatures hovering around -5 in the northeast. And on Friday, snow is expected in the south and central Poland. The temperatures will range from 0 to 6 degrees along the Baltic coast. Thank you for watching and goodbye.
Good evening, I'm John Carter and welcome to Poland Daily. The former Minister of Foreign Affairs, Radosław Sikorski, recently wrote a book revealing details of Polish diplomacy. It included information such as the location of a base where the CIA conducted interrogations. It also included the alleged offer made by Vladimir Putin to former Polish PM Donald Tusk in 2009 for Poland and Russia to join forces in the partition of Ukraine. The book, entitled Poland Can Do Better, Behind the Scenes of Polish Diplomacy, has raised more than a few eyebrows as politicians and columnists have serious doubts about Sikorski's credibility.
A former Minister of Foreign Affairs shouldn't be unveiling such facts if they are facts to begin with. We know that Radosław Sikorski likes to gather attention, and if there is one thing we know about diplomacy, is that diplomacy requires confidentiality. It's hard to imagine that any foreign official could treat Mr. Sikorski seriously when he's leaking factual or false conversations, which will remain confidential nonetheless.
When
it comes to the CIA base, it's all been discussed and well known to the public for some time now, so it's nothing new. Regarding the alleged proposal to divide Ukraine between Poland and Russia, I believe it's just Mr. Sikorski's imagination. We should be focusing on reliable sources.
Law and Justice Senator Jan Maria Jackowski published a letter to the authorities of the National Bank of Poland in which he raised the issue of Martyna Wojciechowska's salary. Wojciechowska is the Chief of Communication and Promotions Department of the NBP. According to reports, her reimbursement stands at 65,000 zloty a month.
My voters are appalled at the estimated salaries of the National Bank of Poland employees, said Senator Jan Maria Jackowski. A law and justice politician published 2 senatorial interpellations in which he posed open questions to the authorities in the National Bank of Poland regarding the salary of Martyna Wojciechowska, Chief of Communication and Promotions Department, as well as her duties and competencies. Gazeta Wyborcza Daily estimated Wojciechowska's salary at 65,000 zloty per month. The opposition recognized the Senate's initiative. Deputy Prime Minister Jarosław Gowin stated in the same today that the lack of a clear response from the National Bank of Poland on this matter is a mistake, and that if the allegation turned out to be true, it would require justification of such an outrageous sum. Byłby to fakt bulwersujący i wymagający uzasadnienia opinii publicznej.
If these allegations prove to be true, it would be appalling. I imagine that the authorities of the National Bank of Poland would have to publish an explanatory statement regarding the earnings of Martyna Wojciechowska. But I reiterate that we must first acquire all necessary facts and figures before making any judgment. It is an inconceivable figure. I already said that I will not make any further comments at the moment. Everything I had to say is written down in my interpellations. This problem may or may not have base in reality. Nevertheless, I want to receive a written response.
The ruling Law and Justice Party is still gaining support, whilst the opposition Civic Platform support is headed in the opposite direction. That's according to the pollsters IBRIS. They conducted the first political opinion poll of 2019 at the request of Rzeczpospolita Daily. The survey also showed that apart from the 2 main parties, the Polish People's Party, the Kukiz 15 movement and the Democratic Left Alliance Party would all enter the parliament as well.
Według sondażu IBRIS,
according to the survey conducted by IBRIS, more than 39% of voters would support the Law and Justice Party, which is a 2% rise from December. Grzegorz Schetyna's attempt to take over several politicians from the Modern Party did not help the Civic Platform Party in getting polls' trust. If the elections were held today, Civic Platform would get only 26.3% of the votes. It's 5% less in comparison to the last month. The Polish People's Party would get 6.7%, Kukiz 15 movement 5.5%, and the Democratic Left Alliance would receive 5%.
Na który chce głosować 5% uczestników badania IBRIS.
Jestem głęboko przekonany, że ten front antyPiS, ten front
As I recall, just several days ago we had 31% in opinion polls. The numbers will always shift, but we're glad that our support stays around 30% time and time again.
wyborach do Parlamentu Europejskiego i wyborach jesiennych do Sejmu.
It's not exactly a satisfactory outcome, but we've never cared too much about opinion opinion polls anyway.
Jest to taka premia za wiarygodność w polityce.
It's sort of a reward for
Prawo i
our
Sprawiedliwość,
credibility in
Zjednoczona
politics.
Prawica jest wiarygodna.
According to this month's survey, the Freedom, Together, Now and Modern parties wouldn't reach the electoral threshold. Katarzyna Lubnauer's Modern Party wouldn't reach even 1%, which is the party's lowest ever result.
Żenujący wynik wszystkiego, co
The embarrassing result of the mess left by Ryszard Petru. It goes to show that the Polish political scene is trapped in the struggle between only two parties, Law and Justice and Civic Platform.
Wszystko pokazuje, że w zasadzie mamy scenę zabetonowaną między PiS i Platformę.
The Ebris opinion poll also shows that the number of undecided voters has risen. Around 12% of voters were unsure as to who they would support in the parliamentary elections. Given the scale of the political conflict we're witnessing in Poland and the general disappointment with all sides, 12% is not that much.
To nie jest bardzo dużo.
The parliamentary elections will take place in autumn, but before that there will also be the elections for the European Parliament, which will be conducted in May.
Worldwide media attention has been drawn to the story of Rahaf Al-Qunun, an 18-year-old girl from Saudi Arabia who fled to Thailand in order to escape a marriage arranged by her parents. Rahaf locked herself in a hotel as she fears for her family's revenge and the Saudi authorities. The girl appealed to Thai officials for political asylum.
My name is Rahaf, and I'm still in the room. I have no choice. They said I have to go tomorrow, and no one can help me right now.
The 18-year-old tried to flee to Australia in order to escape her parents, who arranged her marriage. Rahaf Mohammed Al-Qunun further claims that she was also threatened by Saudi diplomats. The teenager had her passport taken away from her. Thai bodyguards detained her for not having relevant documents, a return ticket, nor cash. The girl denies that version of events.
I had been threatened to be killed before, and they aren't afraid to threaten me in public. Do you think this family is modern enough to set and negotiate my life's choices? I know they won't. They consider me as property or their slave.
Rahaf Al-Qunun barricaded herself in a hotel room and asked to receive a refugee status.
I'm not leaving my room until I see UNHCR. I want asylum.
The actions of Saudi Arabian and Thai authorities were criticized by members of the Human Rights Watch organization.
Rahaf Al-Qunun also faces criminal charges in Saudi for parental disobedience, which can result in punishments ranging from being returned to a guardian's home to imprisonment, and for harming the reputation of the kingdom for her public appeals for help.
Saudi Arabia is yet to comment on the situation. However, due to international uproar on social media, Thai authorities stated the teenager will not be deported. Women still lack basic rights in Saudi Arabia, as husbands or male relatives have control over their lives. Saudi women cannot get a job, travel, get married, or even receive medication without permission from men.
Thank you very much for joining us here at Poland Daily. I'm John Carter. Stay tuned after the break for Poland Daily Weather. Then join me after that for the business, and that's followed by the culture, history and the travel.
Welcome to Poland Daily Weather. Let's see the forecast for tonight. A quite overcast night as large parts of the country, and we'll see rain mixed in with some snow in Wrocław, Koszalin and Gdańsk. A maximum 1 degree in Szczecin and Koszalin and a minimum -10 degrees in Kraków and Białystok. Now over to tomorrow. It will be a mixed bag with rain across the country, but also moments when the sun will peek through the clouds. The temperature will range from -4 degrees in Wrocław to 5 in the west. Let's see the forecast for the following 3 days. Another rainy day all over Poland. A maximum 1 degree in the west and central Poland. More rain is expected on Thursday, but with slightly cooler temperatures hovering around -5 in the northeast. And on Friday, snow is expected in the south and central Poland. The temperatures will range from 0 to 6 degrees along the Baltic coast. Thank you for watching and goodbye.
Welcome to Poland Daily Culture. On today's episode, we're going to continue our journey through classical music and the life and works of Chopin. On today's show, I'm joined by Dionisi Vincenti Płachkowski.
Good afternoon.
Nice to have you here, sir. Okay, let's get into it. So you are an opera singer, a tenor to be precise. Could you tell us a little something about the summer concerts in Łazienki Park? I don't know if you've attended.
Yeah, I know they're very popular. As you can see, lots of people want to listen to this beautiful music. So I attended, of course, a few times. There are many venues and places where you can listen to Chopin music. The competition of Chopin, which is the most important competition for pianists. They come from around the world here. It's every 5 years, and I have very good memories with those competitions. Actually, the competitors, they were practicing at the school, the University of Chopin. So my vocal department, we have to give up our classes for them to practice. So I took advantage of this, and I knocked in few doors. And luckily, I met most of the finalists those days, and I talked to them. I asked them to play for me a little for some small recordings in Snapchat. It was before Instagram, Insta Story was really big Snapchat, so I recorded some Snapchats with them, and then some of them are my Facebook friends. And because of my Polish colleague, Marek Bracha, that he worked in the studio commenting the commentaries about the competition. He invited few of the competitors to my home, so I threw like a small after parties where I recall beautiful scenes like Dinara Clinton. She played pieces from E minor concerto in my home on my piano. It was really memories I'm going to treasure for all my life.
Could you tell us, because you're going to be playing, singing for us later on, could you tell us what you're going to be singing and what is the significance of, you've chosen Bellini as a...
Yeah, I chose Vincenzo Bellini because Chopin adored his music, really. And they actually met in Paris. They became good colleagues. They were seeing each other in so-called music nights in like a very elite social households. Of course, Chopin also was influenced by Bellini. In Nocturnes, he explained that the ornaments and the legato line should be played imitating the bel canto Italian singers. So that's really one thing that it's very connected to their music together. And as I heard Countess Delfina Potocka, she was asked when Chopin was very ill to sing for him pieces from Bellini's opera Norma. I suppose was Casta Diva aria, which is very beautiful, very famous from this work. Supposedly it was the last melodies that Chopin heard on his deathbed, the melodies written by Vincenzo Bellini.
And so what were the two pieces?
The pieces are the Aria da Camera, 2 songs that Bellini wrote. Some of the themes are used later in his opera scores in the opera music. And those are the beautifuls to Lida I chose for this chamber hall.
Mr. Dionisi Vincenti Płachkowski, it's been a pleasure. So, he'll be playing us out for Poland Daily Culture. See you tomorrow.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are at the Warsaw Royal Castle, an estate that served as a residence for king and monarchs of Poland for centuries. Follow me and my guests as we unravel the story and history of this amazing place on Poland Daily History.
The First Polish-Swedish War started in 1598 over the control of the Swedish crown. It was the first phase of a series of wars which would last up until the early 18th century. Our first guest is Łukasz Jędrzejczak, a historian and longtime guide at the Warsaw Royal Castle.
Dynasties don't last forever, and at one point we know that a new one moved in and have significant influence on Warsaw and the Royal Castle alike. And who were they, and what is it like?
When the last Jagiellonian, the son of Queen Bona, Sigismund II Augustus, was dying, he was childless, so the nobility decided to select a king out of a number of candidates. The first two rulers were chosen a little by coincidence, but also partly against the wishes of the Habsburg dynasty. The first was Henry Valois, a French prince, the second was the Prince of Transylvania, Stefan Batory, while the third was Sigismund Augustus' nephew and the grandson of Sigismund the Old, Sigismund III, the King of Sweden. The nobility didn't see him as a king from the House of Vasa. This mentality did not exist in the Polish nobility. He was considered a Jagiellonian from his mother's side. When he announced his candidacy for the throne, the majority of the nobility supported him to be chosen as the next king of Poland. His sons, Władysław IV Vasa and Jan Kazimierz, ruled after him, and to be honest, both of them were sure candidates for the crown. The nobility only had to choose between Sigismund III's sons. In this way, we can talk about the Vasa dynasty from a historical perspective as something of Swedish dynasty, which unfortunately fomented a number of conflicts between Poland and Sweden, especially after Sigismund was dethroned as the King of Sweden in 1599. This started a long series of wars between the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth and Sweden.
Wojen polsko-szwedzkich.
So to follow that up, with the influence of the Swedish dynasty, does it make a change, the shift of Polish foreign policy to pointing towards the north?
Za czasów panowania Zygmunta Augusta
Under the rule of Sigismund Augustus, a war erupted over the so-called Dominium Maris Baltici. It was a war over who would rule the Baltic Sea region. Denmark stood on one side with Poland and Lithuania, and on the other, Sweden had a pact with Russia. But when Eric XIV lost his Swedish crown to John III, who was Catherine Jagiellon's husband, loyalties changed. Sweden became an ally of Poland against Denmark and Russia. This pact came to an end when Sigismund III lost his crown in Sweden in 1599 to his uncle Charles IX. And after this, a year later, in the year 1600, a decades-long era of wars between Sweden and the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, as the Polish Vasa dynasty was attempting to return to power in Sweden.
Odzyskanie korony przez polskich Wazów.
So lastly, how does this specific castle look like during the time of the Swedish dynasty?
During Sigismund III's rule, the castle was thoroughly reconstructed. Curia Major and Curia Minor, the two buildings on this site which had been erected in medieval times and rebuilt during the reign of Queen Bona Sforza, were now connected into one building, and 3 additional wings were constructed. It was in this way that the castle assumed the shape it has currently. The reconstruction of the castle took nearly 15 years. It was rebuilt in the Baroque style that was rapidly gaining popularity in those times. The Vasa monarchy gathered together a great collection of art. A few hundred paintings, tapestries, sculptures and beautiful stucco art. It can without a doubt be said that the castle owed its great development to the Vasa patron.
The turn of the 16th and 17th century is considered the apex of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. It is also a time in which the Polish parliamentary system matures, modeling itself on ancient Greece and Rome according to new Renaissance ideas. Next up, we will speak with Marcin Skalski-Truskolaski, a historian and expert on heraldry, genealogy, and everything relating to the Polish nobility. To illustrate the spirit of the time, he is dressed as a Polish nobleman of the era.
First Polish parliament convened in 1468, and I was wondering how did that came about?
Pierwszy rzeczywiście to jest dość nowe odkrycie, że pierwszy Sejm.
Yes, this is a new discovery. The first parliament, an extraordinary government, gathered together in 1468, 2 years after the peace treaty in Thorn in 1466, which was a very important event. It was actually a groundbreaking event in Polish relations with the Krzyżacy, the Knights of the Teutonic Order. After the great Polish victory against the Teutonic Order in the Battle of Grunwald in 1410, it turned out that the population living in Prussia are in favor of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. They were tempted by the privileges and the freedom that the Polish king gave to the cities, the knights and the nobility. Soon there was another armed conflict, and the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth won the 13-year war between 1454 and 1466. It was a long war, but ended in victory, after which the Grand Master of the Knights of the Teutonic Order became a vassal of the Polish king, and the first extraordinary parliament commenced, comprised of 3 different factions.
Na którym mamy do czynienia z trzema czynnikami. Król jako odrębny stan,
the king as the executive power, the council that becomes the Senate, and the nobility forming the lower house, so the parliament. That was the beginning. It was decided that the parliament would come together every 2 years. Of course, it's now difficult to say how it worked in practice in those times, but it is important that up to the adoption of the so-called Nihil Novi constitution in 1505, when it was determined that nothing new could be enacted without the agreement of the council and the MPs of the lower house.
Ustala się, że nic nowego nie zostanie uchwalone bez zgody Rady I posłów ziemskich.
These MPs were representatives of specific regions known as lands. As I mentioned earlier, the lower house was made up of the so-called lands, which were the part of an indigenous territorial organization predating the United Polish Kingdom. Poland was made up of these lands, so was Lithuania, and MPs from all these lands were represented in the parliament.
Mógł sam decydować ani o wojnie, ani o nakładaniu podatków. To oczywiście wynikało z całego szeregu poprzednio wydawanych przywilejów.
It was important that the king was unable to decide about going to war or about taxes, privileges that the king has previously had. But now the executive power, that was the king, had to get agreement from the parliament. Without this agreement, the king would not be able to make any decisions at all.
Na takich sejmach uchwalano tak zwane konstytucje. To nie były konstytucje w...
In these parliamentary sessions, so-called constitutions were enacted. They were not constitutions in today's understanding, in other words, basic law, but explicit laws. The Polish law was over time collected into a document called Volumina Legum, which was subsequently published. It happened in the early 18th century. All these constitutions were collected and then formed laws in the Polish Republic.
Praw, które obowiązywały w Rzeczypospolitej.
To follow up on that, how does the beginning of Polish parliamentarism compare to the rest of Europe?
Tak, to rzeczywiście była różnica, która się pogłębiała, ponieważ...
It was certainly different and got more and more different with time. Both Eastern and Western Europe were going in the direction of limiting the rights of parliaments and governments at both city and national levels in favor of giving all the power to the monarch, who was in charge of the state's wealth, and all of his servants, who were subject to the absolute will of the king. In the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, the so-called Rzeczpospolita, or the most serene republic, the situation was completely different. Every nobleman was guaranteed personal immunity and wealth immunity.
Zupełnie inaczej. Szlachcic miał, rycerz najpierw, potem szlachcic, miał zagwarantowaną nietykalność osobistą.
Without a court order, it wasn't possible for anyone, including the king, to arrest a nobleman or to throw him in prison. He was a free person in every sense of the word. The notion of freedom was very strong in the century when Polish parliamentarism really developed, that is, the 16th century. It was a time when the Renaissance was dominating the scene in Poland, and the Polish nobility were inspired by the ancient Greek democratic tradition and the republicanism in Rome. These were the examples which the Polish system modeled itself on. The freedom of the nobility was said to be what differentiated the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth from other states. This freedom was without a doubt the most precious jewel of Polish parliamentarism.
Rzeczpospolitą od innych państw. Ta wolność była właśnie tym najcenniejszym klejnotem polskiego parlamentaryzmu.
Here at the Warsaw Royal Palace, we learned the history and story of Polish democracy and how the parliamentary system came to be. It later on became an influence to Europe and to the whole world. It is not just a story of the castle, but also the story of Warsaw and the story of Poland. That's it for today. See you next time on Poland Daily History.
Welcome again to Poland Daily Travel. Thanks for watching. In this new series over the next few nights, we're taking you to the heart of beautiful downtown Warsaw. That's right, we're visiting the central train station, where we will be talking to a few friends about adventures on trains and cruising around the station. So stay with us. Warszawa Dworzec Centralny. Did you know that Dworzec means station? It is, if you will, the Grand Central Station of Warsaw. The huge station sits opposite the 237-meter-tall Palace of Culture and Science, and right next to and across the street from the 40-story tall Marriott Hotel, which was the first Western-style skyscraper in the old Soviet Union and its satellites. So there it is. Let's go inside and take a look.
We're in the Hard Rock Cafe, which is right next to the train station in beautiful downtown Warsaw, a place you'd love to be. Best meal you ever had on a train? Did you?
A breakfast, I think.
Yeah. What did you have?
Well, it was an English train, so it was a proper cooked breakfast.
Bacon, sausage. From where to where?
London to Leeds.
London to Leeds, and what did you have?
I had the proper cooked breakfast. So it was bacon, egg, tomato, sausage, and I think they even had some black pudding.
Black pudding?
Black pudding.
A delicacy indeed.
A delicacy indeed.
Just what you want first thing in the morning.
Well, it does. It sets you up for the day. When I was at law school, I used to have that every day.
Oh.
Because the landlady said, you can't study on an empty stomach.
You can't study on an empty stomach.
So she provided a fantastic breakfast. And she was right.
Really? I always find if I eat too much for breakfast, I fall asleep. I just like coffee and a little breakfast. Yeah. I mean, I don't mean like a breakfast for a tiny person, but I mean not a lot of breakfast.
No, you can't beat a traditional English breakfast.
Coffee and toast. I know what you reminded, coffee and toast. It's something like that, but sometimes some eggs. But eggs are, I never know if eggs are good for you or not. But they change it every 5 years. But I know what I want to say about your English breakfast. Well, it's world famous, of course. You didn't say beans.
No, I don't think beans have a proper place on a traditional English breakfast plate.
Okay.
Baked beans are an English breakfast? I always thought they were.
Baked beans are not really. They're an invasive alien species, breakfast-wise.
When did this happen? When did baked beans become part of English breakfast?
Well, they didn't, but that's the whole point.
Yeah. What about a bacon butty?
A bacon butty? Well, that's excellent as well. A bacon sandwich.
But in Yorkshire, they say bacon butty.
They say something like that.
Something odd.
Well, just the way they say it.
That's a terrible accent. But they do say something like that.
Yeah, they do.
Somerset Maugham famously said, that's what I wanted to say. You will know this being a great literary man, a great reader of the fine books, that he said breakfast, good eating in England means breakfast 3 times a day. I'm paraphrasing. Something like that. I'm sure he said it much better. The Maugham.
Well, he's probably right. Although I think cooking in England and cuisine in England has changed since he was writing that. So I think you can eat well in England 3 or 4 times a day, of which breakfast need only be 1 or 2 of those times.
Yes, you need to eat as much breakfast as possible. It's not true anymore.
No, I don't
this
think it's
used
true
to be
anymore.
the case. Yeah.
Well, it was said to be the case.
Yeah.
But I suspect that was exaggerated.
And tea, so thick the spoon stands up in it.
Builder's tea.
Yeah, yeah. Builder's tea with
Builder's
sugar
tea.
and the tea bag is still in it. When
Well, no, yeah, I
after
think you should use a teapot, in which case the tea bag wouldn't be in it.
Yeah, yeah.
But people have become very lazy nowadays, and they put tea bags straight into the mug or the cup, which is obviously a bad habit, which should be avoided.
It's a ridiculous habit, and I won't allow it.
Good.
I mean, I might allow it. I don't
I'm
know.
going to keep doing it, especially if there's a beautiful woman. I bet you allow it will.
Anything for a beautiful woman.
Well, apparently, yes.
Yes, except my credit cards. Anything but that.
Warszawa Centralna, the Warsaw Central Station, was a flagship project of the People's Republic of Poland during the 1970s, just as its neighbor, the Palace of Culture, had been in the 50s. Both of these huge structures were designed to show that socialism under the Soviet Union worked. But the showing off did not go as planned. In fact, what was seen was real socialism at work. The design was innovative, but construction was plagued by changes to the plans and cutting corners using shoddy materials. Meanwhile, the rush was on to impress Soviet potentate Leonid Brezhnev on his 1975 visit to Warsaw, the capital of the Soviet Union's largest satellite. So far, so not so good. The old station was in constant renovation throughout the 1980s. It was never quite there. It had a face only a mother could love. And yet, despite its deficiencies, it was fairly swish. There was something epic in at least its concept if you compared it to other, older train stations throughout the region. Great Scott! There were automatic doors, escalators, and elevators for each platform. There were also winding tunnels that went on for hundreds and hundreds of meters beneath the city surface. The dirty old station finally got a facelift in 2012 for the Euro Championships, including a natty mezzanine level. Today, the station fairly hums with all kinds of activity, both consumer and travel. Still, there are lingering doubts about this building, about this space, from which so many people depart and to which so many people arrive. For years, there has been a simmering debate over tearing the station down or keeping on with renovating it. Just as with its neighbor, the Palace of Culture, another love-hate object. The Warsaw city government has talked about demolishing and replacing the station, either at the same location or farther from the city center. What do you think? A superb example of functionalist architecture? A masterpiece of Polish modernism? Or a communist-era pile that begs for demolition? That's Warsaw Central. Come have a look and judge for yourself. Andy Warhol once called us the Smithsonian of rock and roll. So says the Hard Rock Cafe website. Hard Rock's archive includes over 80,000 items and is the largest private collection of rock and roll memorabilia in the world. The collection began in 1979 with an unsigned red Fender guitar from Eric Clapton. He was a regular at the First Restaurant in London at Hyde Park Corner. Clapton wanted management to hang the guitar over his regular seat in order to claim his spot forever, and they did. This prompted Pete Townsend of The Who to give one of his guitars, also unsigned, but with a note, "Mine's as good as his, love Pete." The cafe began covering its walls with rock and roll memorabilia, a tradition which expanded to all the other cafes in the chain. Since the first Hard Rock Cafe opened in Park Lane in London in 1971, the concept has spread across the world to almost every country you can think of. The collection includes John Lennon's glasses, Jim Morrison's leather pants, the doors of the Abbey Road studios, the Magical Mystery Tour bus from the Beatles, Elvis's studded jumpsuit, Frank Sinatra's tuxedo, Michael Jackson's red jacket that he wore in the video for Beat It, In Warsaw's Hard Rock Cafe, you will find items that once belonged to Polish stars like Kora of Manam and Grzegorz Ciechowski of Republika, both seminal rock bands which came of age in the early 80s. Says Hard Rock, our memorabilia is the result of both our own selfish fanaticism to hoard the coolest things we've ever seen and an honorable mission to share it with the world. If you like rock and roll, Warsaw's Hard Rock Cafe is a religious experience. It's a great place to get your motor running.
Anyway, just to wrap up, we're going to dig into this lovely food. Look, we like train travel.
We do.
You can eat on the train, you can walk on the train, you can read on the train, you can sleep on the train. None of those things you can do in a car. Well, you can eat fast food in a car. It's not much fun.
No, not at all.
It's kind of fun to eat a cheeseburger while driving, although the Germans would turn their heads if they saw you doing this.
Well, while you're driving, you can eat a cheeseburger, that's true, but you can't have a nice tablecloth and a waiter who says, "Will there be anything else, sir?"
Not in a car.
Yeah, no, not in the car. Yeah, I'm probably leaning too far forward. I hate when that happens. Anyway, here we are. We got some nice food. We're here at the Hard Rock. Train journeys are fantastic. They're endless. You can go anywhere in a train, almost, except across the ocean. But we're working on that, or they're working on that, or Elon Musk, that's who's working on that, with his tunneling. Look, it's been great showing you around the train station and talking with Nick and with Jeff, who's getting married, whose parents and relatives have just arrived today in Warsaw. So we better eat up so he can go and meet his family. Hey, look, it's Poland Daily Travel. We're glad that you tuned in. We hope you'll tune in a lot more and follow our progress throughout Poland, or even progress. How do you pronounce that word?
Progress.
Progress, says the Englishman. What does the Arizonan say?
Progress.
He's not. He says he's not from Arizona. He's from New York, but it's not true.
I was only born in Arizona.
Sun Devil,
that doesn't make you from Arizona.
Sun Devil went to Arizona State. Sun Devil, Arizona. Okay, and with that, we shall bid you a fond goodbye until the next installment of Poland Daily Travel. Good Lord, who knows where we'll be next, or what we'll be doing. Goodbye from the Hard Rock, gentlemen. It's not beer, and it's not whiskey, but it is lemonade.
Lemonade.
Good day out.
Good day.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Have a good one. See you next time. Okay, so we did come into the Hard Rock. We had a nice conversation, a really fun conversation, some great food, and a good time, some good music. The Hard Rock Cafe is always a good stop on your way in and out of Warsaw Centralna. Stay tuned to PolandDaily.com. We'll be bringing you more travel. We'll be bringing you more adventure and lots more locations. Poland Daily Travel. Stick with us.